Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Impossible. I'm your co-host, Austin, and today we have another solo recording here in the studio, and we're going to be talking about adventure today. Adventure is something that is a concept, is a construct, is something that means a lot to me. Adventuring has been a part of my life since, I would say, 2010 or 2011, I believe. Probably went back a little bit further, beyond that. But I would say adventure for me really began when I had the opportunity to visit Alaska. My grandparents had taken me up there for it was about a 2-week spurt. This incredibly long flight for me at that time. 5.5 hours from Minneapolis to Anchorage, Alaska. And so we get up there, and it's this just such an incredible view there from Anchorage, and little had I known that was just the tip of the iceberg. We land, we get up to, I believe the town was Palmer, Alaska, where we stayed at a B&B that they had stayed at in previous years, before, and so they knew the owner of the B&B well, and we get there, and this is late June, early July, so I forget what the phenomenon is called, but it's where, with it being, we're in the northern hemisphere during the middle of the summer solstice and all that good stuff. The sun doesn't really go, it goes beneath the horizon, but really in Palmer and the Anchorage area, at least, like, it doesn't really get super dark at night. So I mean, we're way up there, and it's really just this incredible scenery, this beautiful scenery that we have around the house, around the town, and we start the adventure. We take off, and we go to a reindeer farm. We drive along this huge river, and on the other side of the river is just this, it's like flat land, and then just this mountain range, and it just utterly just shocked me seeing that kind of terrain, because I'd never seen that kind of terrain before. I'd never been to the Rockies at this point. The only instance of mountains that I really had was, driving to Florida from Ohio through the Appalachians, which, this may sound a little controversial, but now that I've experienced actual mountains, it's the Appalachian Hills for me. So take that as you will. And so we have mountains here sitting just across the river, and I remember vividly sitting in the backseat of the rental car, just staring and just in awe of those mountains and the riverbank too. I mean, I love standing beside a good river, but like the mountains had me. And what else did we do? We went to I forget the name of the glacier, but we went onto a boat. Did a little tour of a glacier. That was a lot of fun. And went up to the Princess Lodge up for Denali National Park. Got to see Mount Denali or Mount McKinley, whatever side you're on, which is the tallest peak in North America. I believe it's 20,720 feet, something like that. At the Princess Lodge, there's a little cafe with elevation, and I used to be able to remember it. I'll have to look that back up. But yeah, I got to see, and what was really, really incredible about that portion in particular is that as we were driving up Highway 1, I think it is, because, not too many highways up there. We're going up Highway 1, and I'm sitting in the back seat, and it's just been, highway and trees going each side of us, and my grandfather is like, "Austin, grab the camera." I'm like, why? He's like, grab the camera, with a little bit more, fervor in the voice and poignancy. And so I'm just like, okay, what, all right, I got the camera. What's up? And he just points, out the windshield, and there it was, Mount McKinley, just presenting us with its beauty, with its magnificence and power, being the tallest peak in North America. I mean, it and its range has its own weather system. It can be sunny and lovely down where you're at, and up there in the mountain range, it could be just extremely cloudy and snowing and all this other stuff. I mean, it's utterly, it's otherworldly. There we go. And so we're on this highway. We have this pristine view of it. We see the lines and the jagged edges of it. We had this incredible sort of viewpoint or perspective, because we had a highway. I mean, it was the camera shots were just incredible, because I'm an incredible photographer, just to let you know. But we had the highway. You had beautiful pines or spruces. I forget the exact trees, and on both sides of the road. And then you had in the cut of the trees for the highway was just Mount McKinley and its beauty. And so just utterly serene moments like that I had gotten to experience, just being, I believe I was going into junior year of high school. It was the summer before, and just I just incredible experience. And as you may have guessed it, I mean, it was my grandparents and ultimately my grandfather that kind of gave me that travel bug. He had taken me, fishing, time and time again before, to some local lakes, but then this trip, and then the following summer we went right back. It was my uncle, grandfather's son, and then myself, or grandfather and myself. The three of us went up there and did the whole thing over again. Both trips we stayed there on the Kenai Peninsula, down just southeast of Anchorage, and I mean, that's just beautiful within itself. The Kenai River, fishing for king salmon, such a good time, good times. And so I had gotten the travel bug by him, and really my love and admiration for exploring and for adventuring. And that led to my time at university spent very, very well. My bank account wasn't having fun with me in the slightest, but the experiences and the adventures that I got to take during university to Europe multiple times, and also of the United States also being an extremely beautiful country. Like if you haven't gotten west of the Mississippi, you are missing out dearly. You were dearly missing out, because it's the Rocky Mountain Range, Yellowstone National Park, all the other different national parks, Zion, Moab, the list goes on. Glacier National Park is one that I'd love to get to. Western Montana, Western Wyoming. Don't go to Eastern Wyoming. Not a whole lot there, but no offense. But all that area over there, it's incredible. Oregon and the Cascades, Washington, Seattle, all the bays of Seattle. It's just, there's some really incredible countryside over there that I certainly would implore you to adventure to. And so what has all of this adventuring, what has all this traveling done for me, other than cost me quite a lot of money, that I don't regret spending, by the way? But what have those experiences really benefited me? How have they benefited me? What have they done for me? What kind of person, what character have I been able to build in having my memory banks stored with that information, and stored with those beautiful images, and those, really tranquil moments of silence while you're sitting beside a rushing river, or a calm little brook, just thinking about life, and trying to catch up and reset from everything that goes that goes on around us on the daily, in the normal day, I suppose that one could call it. I don't, but what has that done for me? What has adventure allowed me to be able to sort of work with and evolve my perspective and my viewpoint of not only the earth, but of just, existence and purpose, and, ultimately just life itself. And this is where I struggle to really keep it condensed, I would say. But there are sort of, I'll go over sort of two benefits that it's had for me. The first is, especially in traveling to places like Europe, and many places in Europe, and having also the opportunity of gone down to Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, or Brazil. The first thing is that I quickly realized that humans are humans no matter where they are, no matter where they're located geographically. Like, you still have the small towns, you still have the cities, you still have the dangers of a city, you still have the beautiful little parks, you still have the history. The history may be wildly different, especially in the case of Europe versus here, but nonetheless, like, it's profound in its own unique and beautiful manner. You have the wild mountains. Like, I've been to the Swiss Alps, so I've gotten to see the Rockies and the Swiss Alps. Meeting these people, getting to go and visit this local cafe or local restaurant. I certainly, not to be cliche, but I go off the beaten path when I go to Europe, and I go to especially in the cities. Like, I definitely try to stay away from the touristy areas to a point. Obviously, I've been to the Colosseum. I've been to the Roman Forum. I've been to the Vatican. We did the Vatican Museum. We did the Sistine Chapel. Wow. I've been to Florence, to the Palazzo Vecchio and the Ponte Vecchio, which the Ponte Vecchio is that's the famous bridge with all the jewelers on the bridge. It looks like a bridge with a bunch of houses on it. It's really a good time. Really heavy traffic, really heavy foot traffic, but that's because it's awesome. And I've been to Paris. I've been to the Louvre. I've been to the Eiffel Tower multiple times. I've been to the Trocadero Plaza, or Place de Trocadero. That's not how you say it in French, but I'm not even going to attempt that to you guys and have that on the internet right now. So, where else? I've been to Edinburgh. I've been to Edinburgh Castle. Oh my, I'm kind of running a blank. Oh, Berlin. I've seen the Berlin Phil. I've been to Potsdamer Platz. I've been to Luxembourg City. I've been to many of the major European cities, to where I've taken a dive into the different tourist areas, because I mean you still want to see the really cool things. Like, if you're in, you know, Rome or Roma, why would you not go to the Colosseum? That'd be a bit ridiculous. But what my point is that when I'm in these cities, I'll get into those areas to see the rich history, but the culture itself, half of that experience of in my opinion, in my humble opinion, of really absorbing that culture and getting a more sophisticated sense of its history, is obviously talking to its people. And a lot of the times when you're in the touristy areas, if you sit down and try to go to lunch in that area, you'll be sitting down in a place that, you know, the menus are very, and nothing wrong with this, relax, but a very Americanized menu where everything has a photo, everything, you know, the prices are huge. There's 37 different colors going on, and it's just quick pace, in and out, like get everybody in, get everybody out. We need more and more people to come through, because it's, you know, you would think that it was because the food was cheap. Well, the food may be cheap, but the pricing wasn't cheap. You know, it's just as expensive, if not more expensive, than having a fantastic 2 or 3 or 4 course meal, you know, in a local restaurant that's, you know, a mom and pop place just 4 blocks off the beaten path. And the experience is, I would say, you know, tenfold in terms of its quality and its reassurance that humanity is still there. I've had numerous encounters like that with some very special people. Like for the different trips that I've had to Europe has been, you know, for a university choir tour, a university orchestra tour, and then off those 2 tours, we then stayed. The first time it was 3 good friends of mine and I had stayed over, and we did Italy, where we did Roma and Firenze, Florence, and also did the Amalfi Coast, the island of Capri, Pompeii, really good time. And then after the choir tour, one of those friends from that first trip was in the choir as well. That second time there. And him and I we were contemplating, like, you know, doing like a Amsterdam, northern Germany, you know, maybe Denmark kind of tour. But then we were like, you know, there's always Italy. and him and I, we went right back to Italy, but we did some different cities. We flew from Paris, Orly, not Charles de Gaulle. Again, I'm not attempting that. We went from Paris, Orly, airport to Venice, to Venezia. We flew into there and picked up our rental, and I had this really aggravating moment. I said, he always gives me crap about it, but when we went to pick up the rental at the Venice airport, the front desk agent was like, okay, well, here's your vehicle. It's a Jeep Compass. And I had reserved a car with like sat nav like in the vehicle, you know, just to save on data being spent by our phones, because this was 2017 or 2018. I think it was 2018. And so, you know, for some odd reason, we still didn't have a really good connection in terms of people being able to use data in Europe on American plans without spending oodles of money. And so I wanted to make sure there was sat nav in the vehicle. And she said, you have a Jeep Compass. And I'm like, okay, does it have sat nav? I was merely asking a question, because it was something that I spent, you know, like $15 or 15 euros a day on, and we had the rental for, you know, a week and a half. So I just wanted to make sure, just making sure. And she looked at me, she's like, it's a Jeep Compass. Like I was just to assume that a Jeep Compass was was going to have sat nav in it already, you know, not because of the fact that I'd reserved it. and added it on. But the fact that a Jeep Compass just comes with sat nav automatically, like all Jeep, it was just a really funny moment. Sam, or yeah, he he definitely rode me a little bit on that, because it was a very awkward exchange after that, because I looked at her, I'm like, okay, but does it have sat nav? I'm just can you please confirm that? Like, I don't care if you gave me a Jeep navigation, like I don't care if the car is called sat nav, if the model name is sat nav, does it have sat nav in it? Is it working? Because car rentals in America, at least, and that was my experience, car rentals in America will, you have an SD card. I mean, this is also maybe with some motor vehicles, but like there's an SD card that you use to actually like have the programming and to be able to use the sat nav. And a lot of the companies would take that, card out. Because again, this was, my experience of rentals back in 2016, 2017. And so like they would take the SD card out if you didn't add on the sat nav. And if you did, they'd put it in and it would work. And so that was my whole thing. And that was our, that was the beginning of our trek, I suppose, other than the 4 a.m. wake up that we had to do to get to the taxi to get to the Paris Orly, because we had it's like a 7 or 8 a.m. flight, but we had to travel there and all that stuff. Wonderful time. but yeah, and so that's how our trip started off, and we did Bologna, Venezia, Bologna, went to Florence again. That had been the second time of him and I going to Florence, and we did it specifically for one restaurant. Osteria Santo Spirito was this fantastic restaurant in the courtyard of the Santo Spirito, what's church in Italian? Iglesia, I think. But the Santo Spirito church, it was in the courtyard of it. And they have this, I think it was 3 cheese, black truffle baked gnocchi. And I think it was twice baked too. And it came out in the cast iron that it was actually baked in. And they just put it on, they just put it down in front of you. And again, I mean, not only the food helps me remember that trip and remember that meal, specifically, because I mean, when Sam and I walked up, we put our name in for the reservation. Then we came out to this courtyard, and this courtyard is like it's almost like a movie. You have all these people running around, good Lord, you have all these kids running around, families having fun, and then in the same courtyard, there's in the courtyard there's a smaller portion that's just like raised stones for people like to sit on and stuff. And there's these younger couples or any couple in that matter just like sitting there and like having a romantic time, and Sam and I are just kind of sitting there too, having a fantastic time, just like like thinking like one of us most likely cracked a joke of like, hey man, should we like cuddle right now or something, just to fit in, Oh, such wonderful times. And so then we go and we sit down for the meal, and we sit down at this lovely 2-person table, and not only one couple, but then later in the meal a second couple came in. Those 2 couples were both on their honeymoons from America. And so all this chatter that you hear that's Italian, so we're just kind of in our own world to a point. We hear we hear this couple from Wisconsin behind him, and then beside us later on was a couple, I think, from like Virginia or from DC on their honeymoon. And so it was just really cool to have those interactions. And not that you didn't see Americans in Italy on vacation. It was that that night in that restaurant that we had come to adore, and I've now been to once or twice after that, because of that meal. I mean, Florence is a beautiful city. It's one of my favorite cities in Europe, especially the walkable parts of the old town of the not centro, but the center, the city center there of like the old city. I forget what it's called again. And it's beautiful shopping, beautiful streets. The streets are not, nice and narrow, so it's like one-way cars, so you don't have to, deal with a whole lot of traffic. Some roads are just even closed off to traffic. And so it was really awesome to have that kind of connection with a couple of people in this restaurant. It was a very small restaurant too. This wasn't a 200 person place. I mean, it was 2 stories, but I mean, you could probably fit 50 to 60 people in total, plus the outside portion too. But that's, we let the romantic people have that, I suppose. I don't know. And so, yeah, it just, as you see, as I kind of went on a tangent there, that we continued on that trip, and we did Pisa, we did Cinque Terre, which is the 5 towns. I forget the 5 towns right now. They're lots of syllables in there that I'm not going to butcher right now. But yeah, and then we finished up in Milan, and then flew back to Amsterdam, and then flew from Amsterdam back home. And it was actually $300 cheaper for us to. So you had for the orchestra tour, we had this like original booking, obviously, for the flight for everybody, or not the orchestra, the choir tour. For the choir tour, you had everybody. This was fly in, fly out, round trip. For extending the fly back 14 days later of returning back home, we actually saved $300, which was phenomenal. So it was just really cool. So that's why we the money that we saved there, we actually, because our flight back from Milan to Amsterdam using KLM was just like, it was like 80 euros a ticket and stuff. Just super cheap. And so we actually saved a little bit of money. And yeah, but like that trip in journal, as you noticed there, you may have noticed that I went down a very long tangent of my experience just about a meal that I had in a restaurant that was, fairly off the beaten path. And it's off the beaten path because it's south of the river, and so not a whole lot of people get to this portion of the town south of the river that are tourists. Most of the time, if they're south of the river, they're going to be over at the Piazza de Michelangelo, which is the viewpoint southeast of the city center, kind of looking. It's a lovely hill up top, and you can look down and over the old city. You can see. You can see the Duomo. I forget the entire name of the Duomo, and I feel bad for that. But the Duomo of Florence, which has the incredible Duomo, then the tower there, the Palazzo Vecchio, Ponte Vecchio, all the superstars. But you see what happens to me merely recalling that one trip in that one city with that one evening's experience. That had I not gotten the bug to travel, had I not realized that taking an adventure was such a brilliant time, but ultimately a decision and a lifestyle that I wanted to engage in, and it's just a part of me. Like I love exploring. I love traveling. I travel for work. Like it's just a part of me. But in that moment, I was very, very thankful for the experience. But how did I know that I was going to be so in love with that, so in love with being able to recall those moments? And I could sit here and we could talk for hours about little moments like that we had. Even some romantic times with Sam too. If we're gonna go down that route, we went to I forget the name of the gelato shop. Gelato is ice cream, in Florence there, and we had gelato, and then there's this bridge. So the gelato's right here, and then there's a road here on the south side of the river, but then you have a road that crosses the river. And on that bridge is definitely a spot for couples to go up and kind of sit and enjoy each other, enjoy the view, because it sits on top of the Arno River. And so Sam and I go up there, and we're just kind of sitting there enjoying our gelato and everything, and again, it's just It was still romantic, I would say. I don't know if Sam would agree. Sam would definitely agree. It was very romantic, And just little moments like that just mean the world to me was because I decided to go on an adventure. And that leads me to my second point, in that the happiness and the joy that can come from experiences like that will alter your path until you're no longer on this planet, until you're no longer on this earth, until you have passed. I will always cherish those moments, because I allowed myself to be vulnerable in those moments. I allowed myself to be vulnerable in those trips. Now, for the second point, I understand that there is a bit of a luxury that I've been able to engage with. I've been able to partake in a bit of a luxury in taking these trips. And I'm well aware of that. And so that's the reason why that I sit here and I can recall the vast majority of the moments that I had on those trips, is because I took advantage of it since I could. I don't regret having that luxury of being able to travel. I really don't. And because of that, and because of the moments that I've experienced in those, I do not regret that in the slightest. And I'm very, very thankful that I did. I'm very, very thankful that I took those moments and opened myself up to engage with another culture, to really evolve my character and my temperament and my viewpoint of this planet and its, in its position and ultimately our position in this existence itself. I wanted to expose myself to those other cultures, whether it be, having gelato on a gelato on a bridge in a romantic setting, not with my romantic partner, but definitely a very good friend. And then to have, to go to the Louvre with another really good friend of mine, who's studying his master's in Manchester right now, Manchester, England, not New Hampshire, England. Getting to experience the Louvre with him and Paris with him, getting to experience Manchester with him, getting to experience Edinburgh with him, getting to experience Edinburgh and the Highlands with him, but then also most recently with my nephew, who I'm also, I'm trying to get him into, him and his siblings, my nieces and now nephews, trying to get them, to kind of open themselves up to those other cultures, because there's absolutely something to be achieved from allowing a bit of vulnerability to be introduced to your experience. Because I could go and take a 1-week trip to visit Rome, and I could be chartered around on a bus all week and stayed in line with a bunch of people taking photos nonstop. Those of you who know, and just being channeled everywhere in this large group the entire time, and not getting to just like walk 2 blocks that way and maybe see a building that is 800 years old and is still standing because of this really cool story and this really awesome person that took care of it, and learning about their lives and seeing the different paintings and the different architecture and maybe there's a sculptor in the backyard with a fountain. I don't know, and you don't know either if you don't go out and look. And so opening yourself up and allowing yourself to be vulnerable in positions of traveling. And I'm not saying like flying to Rome, have a backpack on your back and just start walking to places. That's not what I'm saying. But allowing yourself to be vulnerable to experience those other cultures is paramount for me and for the kinds of adventures that I want to go on and that I intend to continue to go on. it's so beneficial that I've been able to that in those moments, because kind of the biggest vulnerability I would say that I've had to engage in and that I've had to experience on these trips are situations like going to Italy and not speaking Italian, going to Germany and not knowing German. I knew a little bit of German, of Deutsch, but like I was not going to sit there and have a conversation with anybody because I would have struggled. Having gone to Paris and not speaking French, having gone to, Rio de Janeiro and not being fluent in Portuguese. I had a little bit of Portuguese in me, but again, like having conversations and getting directions and stuff, it was extremely difficult. And I know quite a few people, and this is no attack on them, but like I know quite a few people that would just be really uncomfortable in those positions. And I'm not saying that I wasn't comfortable in those positions, but I remember maybe one time it being extremely frustrating in the moment of not being able to speak the language, but I think that was also because it was in Rio and we had some traffic issues and stuff, and we had the Polícia de Militar there, and it was a very weird situation. But like 99% of the time, I'm not frustrated in the slightest that I can't speak their language, because one, humans in different countries also can kind of get a hint from hand signals. Two, you can point at the food in the menu. Guess what? We all have computers in our pockets, so you can translate the words, or just pick something that kind of sounds cool. I don't know, like live a little, and I can point it. I can, if the server doesn't know English, just be like, hey, I want this. Point at the food, and it comes across. Oh, whoa! And then learn and I would say you can learn a few words before you go. So like going to Brazil, I learned to say agua con gas, sparkling water, and you go to Germany, you can learn how to say thank you, danke schön, bitte schön for you're welcome. It's go to Paris, say merci. They know you're American. Like they will know that you're American before you even walk. As you walk up to them. Okay, so everything's fine. You're putting in a slight effort, and they appreciate it. Most people do. The Italians love you putting in a little bit of effort with the language, and especially the Germans as well, to a point. The French, to a point. But my greatest experiences of trying to kind of speak a foreign language was most certainly in Italy. They, especially with the mom and pop places, generally they absolutely love it. It's a really good time, they're because they're full of life. They really are. But opening yourself up and being vulnerable in those moments, vulnerable to a degree, can really shape you into someone that not only is capable of learning a lot from those moments, but is willing to then also, again, in that shaping of you bring that back home to wherever home is. And for me, it's the States, back to Ohio. I can sit here and I can bring back, a lesson or 2 or 3 or 10 that I learned in that trip, while in a foreign country where, the general sense of, and especially of where I grew up, is that, it's kind of like, the Midwest is kind of the world. And I now know, having grown up in that and having traveled the world, I know that that's quite clearly far from the truth. That's not the truth, but, it ultimately allowed me to bring all those lessons kind of back, not only to share with others directly, but also indirectly. Having it allowed me to have a little bit more patience when it came to just dealing with others in general. Like if there's some type of communication issue, I did little things of frustration like that just wasn't affecting me as much. Is what it is. But like lessons like that, like lessons of going out on an adventure, that's 2 hours away, here is something that I can, kind of embrace a bit more, and if we're going to head up to Columbus, let's, instead of going to the restaurant that we always go to, which I'm a bit of a stickler for that, as you found out that I go to Florence just for a restaurant. Not a Duomo that's, one of the most beautiful cathedrals that I've ever seen. No, a restaurant with baked gnocchi. That when we go to Columbus, it's like, hey, let's go to this cafe. We haven't tried it before, and it may be good. It may not be good, but like, you don't know until you try, and that sort of mindset is something that I've been able to really embrace, because I went and I really allowed myself to be a bit vulnerable and to go and to try new things, to take advantage of that adventure that I was able to take. And so what I hope can come from this episode is not some harsh life lesson. This is a solo recording, and as you know before, I merely want to share with you all my experiences and how much it's impacted me, and I think I've made it quite clear how important those experiences were for me when I would go and I would challenge myself. I would challenge myself to be open to new ideas, to new things, to new places, to new people. And really, you just find out that in the experiences that I've had, at least, I haven't traveled the entire world yet, but what I've noticed is that everybody's still human. Everybody is still, just because you're Italian doesn't mean that you can't be an Italian from a hometown, or a small town of 100, good Lord, of like 1,000 people or something like that. And you had the one gas station, you had the one pizza place, and you had the one restaurant and the one bar, of what I grew up with. Not obviously, it wasn't obvious until I went there, and it would not be obvious to those who don't go there, is that there were many other Dunkirks in Italy, in Germany, in France, in England. I mean, it's just, there are other Columbuses over there. There are other, Clevelands over there. There are other Belpres over there. It's still, they're still humans. They're just located on a different continent. So, and I know that necessarily can't be said for a lot of other places on this earth, but that's, I think, a good thing. I believe that to be a very good thing, to where if you could bring in those minds from those other places, and if they were looking forward to a brighter future, that you could absolutely benefit wildly from different perspectives like that. Because I from the benefit that I have gained, the advantage and ultimately the happiness brought from experiencing other people from other cultures and other small towns has opened me up to this incredible perspective here in the States. And Europe isn't overly dissimilar from it. It's still a Western societal sort of base. And so if you were to have people from other cultures that are well beyond that that type of society, like I feel that it's extremely important to be willing to be open, and being willing and open to those perspectives and those mindsets and their way of life to really potentially create something really beautiful within yourself, and then you get to share that with the rest of the world. And that's something that I absolutely adore and keep a hold of with much fervor and much admiration. is that what I have experienced from taking on those adventures and really pushing myself and really challenging myself, that I have hopefully become a more beautiful human being. And I think that all of us could benefit greatly from that challenge, from that taking on, whether it be head on or not, but from taking on those feats, being vulnerable, and going on an adventure. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. It kind of more of a story time sort of podcast with a little bit of lesson in there. I just go out and travel and explore as much as you can. That's all I'm asking. Okay. That's all I implore you to do, is just to go out, experience other cultures, whether it's a 2-hour drive or a 12-hour flight. Like just when you can, go out and experience something different. It may not work out in the end to where it's something, to where it's extremely positive and you take back all these life lessons and all that stuff. No, but you going out and doing it, like just do it. As the great Shia LaBeouf said, like just go out and do it, and then just maybe you might find something really cool. You might find a meal that is just, to die for. You might find a cafe that just has the best of coffee, or a killer donut or something like that. You might find a building that's just extremely beautiful to you. You might find a church that is incredibly beautiful, or grandiose and all that stuff. Like, you don't know until you go out and you explore a little bit, and you just might find yourself a little bit of an addiction to adventure. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that this has enticed you to travel a bit, I guess is what I'm saying. And if you want to learn more about Impossible Performance and the culture that we have here, and getting in and to have the opportunity to have conversations like this with Matt and myself and others of the Impossible Performance community, directly, and to be able to chat back and forth, we have a school community, and the link for that is going to be in the description. And we really, really, really would love to see you there. Joining right now is actually free due to the Arnold's weekend coming up. And so I'm actually recording the Wednesday before it. And so we would love to see you at the Arnold's, but definitely we would love to see you on the school community. No ads, no bots. This is authenticity at its finest. This is you as a human talking to other humans about what those other humans are doing, where they're going, what they're fighting, what they're battling, what they're, maybe different challenges that they've set themselves, or even other stories of their travels. Yay. That's what school offers. And it's an incredible platform. It's something that's really, really, really going to be huge in the future. And it's going to be very, very much a platform, again, that is authentic, and it has this real feeling of real connection that you can make with others. And we certainly feel here at Impossible Performance that authenticity and that sort of realm of connection is something that's somewhat kind of been set adrift and coming back, and school is definitely a platform that is spearheading that sort of feeling and that sort of sense. And so we would love to see you on there. Again, it's free for this week, so please sign up, and we would love to see you on there, and we would love to see you at the Arnold's, because us here at Impossible Performance are striving to build a global culture of strength, fostering a spirit of growth and constant pursuit of the impossible. Take care. And as always, be impossible.